Hi, welcome to Village Church Connections. I'm Andy Hawkins, the senior pastor of the Village Church, and I'm here with Karen Conkle, who with her husband Doug are international workers with the Christian and Missionary Alliance over in Africa. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to have you with us, and we're here for what's called Global Impact Week, and we're learning a lot about the nature of the ministry that you and Doug have been involved in, and so we want to find out a little bit more about that so we can share that with our community. And so tell us a little bit about where exactly in Africa you minister.
A lot of people ask that because you don't hear much about Burkina Faso. It's just below the desert.
I see.
You know, the big hump in Africa that goes out to the side, right in the middle.
Right in the middle of the hump.
Yes.
I see. And how long have you been there? And I know that that's not the only place in Africa that you've ministered.
Well, of our 40 years, we probably have spent 35 in Burkina Faso.
How about that? Fantastic. And where are the other places that you've ministered?
Well, we were asked to set up the team, the church planting team, in Senegal.
I see.
So we had the privilege of going over to Senegal, Dakar, Senegal, and worked with 4 young couples there.
I see. Now, when you went, this has been a while since you first went there, but what kind of language adjustments did you have to make when you went to Burkina Faso?
Well, first of all, the Alliance sends us to France.
I see.
Yes, and that's a wonderful year there.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Learning French, and you know, when you're young, you can do it very easily. Then we learn another language because most of Africa doesn't go to school, and therefore they wouldn't know French. But there again, we were young. Then when we were asked to go to Senegal, I was 54.
Oh my.
My husband was 55. So now that was more of a challenge. It actually took us about 3 times as long.
I see. So you've had to learn French and then a native language in Burkina Faso and another one in Senegal.
That's right.
That's quite remarkable. Right. Fantastic. Now, you all have an international family, I understand. Tell us a little bit about your children, and they're kind of scattered, aren't they?
Yes, they are, and they've taken our 11 grandchildren with them.
Oh my goodness.
We have a daughter that works with her husband in the Middle East. That's Matt and Rachel Clayson.
I see.
And they have 4 little girls. They work also with the Christian Missionary Alliance. Then she has a twin sister, Rebecca, and she and her husband, Sean and Becky McCabe, are in Mali.
I see.
And then our youngest daughter just went to Thailand.
Wow.
And they just finished language study there. That's Abby and Brian Lindsay.
I see. And you have a couple still in the States, right? Yeah.
Yes, I do. I have a son that's studying for medicine. He'd like to be a pediatrician in West Africa. And our oldest daughter lives in Iowa, which is way too cold for me.
I guess so, after you've been in that part of Africa for some time. So that's extraordinary. Did you ever imagine that you would have such an international scope in your own family?
No, I hadn't ever thought of it. To be honest with you, I anticipated that when I retired from ministry, I'd come back to the States and have my family around me.
I see. How about
So
that?
it was a little bit, you could say in one way it's a disappointment because they're not there. And the other, I'm glad my children have followed what God has called them to do.
Extraordinary. Wow, that's exactly right. Now, tell us a little bit about the nature of the ministry that you've engaged in Burkina Faso.
We began, first of all, in church planting because it was a country that had many people groups, 64 different ethnic groups, different ones, different languages. So to begin with, to plant the church, we were assigned 14 different people groups.
Wow.
And we used the trade language.
I see.
That's the language we learned, one that most people in that area would understand.
And if I can stop for just a second, the idea of a people group is very significant in international work, isn't it?
It is.
Because it really determines the strategy that you would use to really connect with people, isn't it? Tell us a little bit about that understanding of a people group.
Yes, a people is a people that consider themselves different from everyone else. And often if you find the right people that come to Christ, it can influence the people and you can have what they call a people movement. And that has happened with us in 2 different occasions where the people then as a group decide to follow Christ.
How about that?
And that's what you'd really like to see all over, but it doesn't always work that way.
That's right. And people groups are divided in terms of culture and a lot of times even language or dialect and that kind of thing. So it's very difficult to plant just one big church with a whole bunch of people groups, isn't it? You have to sort of plant churches.
They don't all like each other, you know.
Isn't that something?
No, some of them will say, well, my daughter would never marry. I'm not going to let him marry one of those because they eat dog, or they'll say something like that, derogatory about a different people group.
Yeah. Well, that's quite remarkable that we are engaged in church planting, having to engage different people groups, and that's a lot of different people in just one country. We almost can't identify with that in the United States, can we?
No, that's a disadvantage in America. We really can get by with one language, can't we?
Yeah,
and that means pretty much you go your whole life and never learn another language.
Yeah. Well, it's really been exciting to get to know you and the nature of the ministry that you've been engaged in. We are fully cognizant of what God has been doing in Africa, Central Africa. I mean, there's a lot happening, isn't there?
There is. It's really where God is on the move, as they say, in Africa.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Karen, for being with us this week, and we trust that as things begin to unfold for you and Doug, that the ministries, in whatever fashion God has for you, will be prosperous and fruitful.
Thank you very much, Pastor.
Yeah, God bless you. And thank you for joining us on Village Church Connections.